A high-level meeting between US and Russian officials has just concluded in Riyadh, marking the most extensive direct negotiations between the two countries in years. While the official line is that these discussions aim to explore a path to ending the conflict, the real story goes beyond just Ukraine. This is about shifting global power dynamics, recalibrating alliances, and redefining the rules of engagement between two of the world's biggest rivals. Leading the United States delegation was Secretary of State Marco Rubio and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, while Russia was represented by Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and key Kremlin figures. The timing? Critical. Just days after a long Trump-Putin phone call, these talks reflect an effort, particularly from Moscow, to rebuild ties with Washington. The Kremlin is framing this as a step towards normalization, even hinting at reviving US business interests in Russia. This includes a possible return of American oil giants, an economic incentive that aligns with Trump's transactional approach to foreign policy. Russia is seizing the moment, pitching these talks as a chance to reset relations after years of sanctions and diplomatic standoff. But while Washington and Moscow engage, Europe watches from the sidelines with growing unease. European leaders were not part of the discussions, and Ukraine wasn't at the table. The European Union has long insisted that any resolution must include Ukraine, yet the US is now engaging in talks that Kyiv had no hand in shaping. That's a concern not just for Ukraine, but for European security as a whole. The big question now, what does this mean for global power structures? For years, NATO and the EU have operated on the assumption that US stands firmly with Europe in countering Russian influence. But if Washington shifts course and finds common grounds with Moscow, it could challenge the long-standing alignment. A deal favorable to Russia could force Europe to rethink its defense policies, perhaps even accelerating calls for a more independent European security framework. For Ukraine, this is an unsettling development. Kyiv has made it clear no decision about its future should be made without its involvement, but as US-Russia talks progress, Ukraine could face increasing pressure to accept terms dictated by global powers rather than its own leadership. And the bigger picture could be this moment could mark the beginning of a major geopolitical realignment. A thaw between Washington and Moscow would upend traditional power dynamics, testing NATO's unity, reshaping global partnerships, and redefining economic and security priorities worldwide. The meeting in Riyadh may be over, but the ripple effects are just beginning. If this is the start of a US-Russia reset, the rest of the world, especially Europe, will need to reassess its place in the evolving global order.